What's up, guys? Episode 2 of the Floowandereeze and Pidgeotto podcast. We finally have a name now, because I looked it up, and, well, Zeke looked it up, and it wasn't taken. Speaking of Zeke, here's Zeke.
Hi.
And here's our third guy, Austin. Introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, I'm here too.
Yeah. And I'm Ricky. So, last time we talked about Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh!, so we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We mostly just kind of looked at cards, but today, we're going to look at the metagame. Yeah. What everyone's playing, the boogeymen of both formats, or the boogie people, if you're more inclusively inclined. So, I don't know if either of you guys wants to start or something, how much, but Austin's played 2 regionals pretty recently with me, so I know you're pretty in touch with what's in right now with the kids.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that. The player base likes to call this a tier 0 format, where there's only like one deck you can play. But, I played all kinds of decks at those regionals.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, and for... Because with Pokemon stuff, when we think of a regional, we think like a big major tournament with like a stage and commentators. That's usually more for like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship series. With Yu-Gi-Oh!, their regionals are more kind of like the Pokemon State Championships, where it's just like a small room of like maybe a couple hundred players, and they're all just playing for one day. But it's still an important event, but not as huge. It's not like the World Cup or anything. It's more like a regional. It's more like a state thing, really.
Yeah, it's just like a smaller. Everybody's not gonna be playing like the best of the best stuff, necessarily.
Yeah. I'd say it's probably like the next
practice.
big step for most people after locals, but right before the Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series, yeah. So.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, my point there was just I didn't play against all the meta decks, so I'm not gonna call myself an expert here, but I'll break it down the best I can for you.
Probably a little more than Zeke does, yeah.
Yeah. So, best deck right now, it's got to be the tier limit strategy.
Yeah, if you ask anybody on the street, they're gonna say tier limits. Like you could argue one way or another for other decks, but like 99% of people, they're just gonna say tier limits. It's like the Lugia. It's here. Yeah. I'd say even more so, just because how ridiculous it is. Yeah.
I think it was like 75% of like the top 8s of like regionals and things like that recently have been tier limit decks.
Yeah. Even if you don't play Yu-Gi-Oh!, if you see like the pie charts, there's always like at least half of them. So yeah, other decks are still playable. Like it's beatable and stuff, but it's not like like just this unbeatable deck. But it is quite. You're definitely fighting an uphill battle if you play against it.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact numbers, but yeah, Pasadena was like the first for it, right? Or maybe Dortmund.
Yeah, Dortmund, Pasadena,
there was like
maybe.
A big tournament, and it was like 26 of the top 32 in the tournament were like the tier.
I think what made it crazier too was like a set before and stuff. The deck was already, a lot of people would argue, like tier 1 and stuff with all the other decks like Sprite and stuff. And then, with the newest set, they just like dropped a whole bunch of support, and they were very, very good for tier limits. So it's like, well, we already got this amazing strategy, like it can only get better from here, and everyone was right. It's way better now. So
yeah, it's just gone through like stage after stage after stage, and it just keeps getting better. Its most recent iteration has like cards that are really good to kind of accelerate the engine, just get things going.
I think another thing too was with the ban list that came out recently for Yu-Gi-Oh! Like they hit like one card that tier limit just happened to play, but wasn't like a tier limit card itself. It's like if Pokemon, like they're like, we did it, guys. We like hit Ultra Ball. It's like, well, that's not a Lugia card. It's just a card they play. It's like, yeah. So
yeah. So this deck is it's fearsome.
It's bonkers.
That's a big bad to watch out for.
If you were describing it to like a person that like I don't know, maybe like. Yeah, so a person that played Pokemon, or like other card games maybe, right? Like they don't really know about Yu-Gi-Oh!, but they knew about like card game mechanics in general, right? What would you describe maybe?
I mean, do they know about like basic Yu-Gi-Oh! Mechanics? Like it's a fusion deck. They do
make lots of fusions, yeah.
So that's kind of like their thing. They do it on their turn, and then just for fun, they do it again on your turn.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to keep up with it. They're just activating a lot of abilities and stuff like that. generating a lot of advantage.
Yeah, I think what makes it crazy is that when a lot of people that don't play Yu-Gi-Oh but like know about competitive Yu-Gi-Oh look at Yu-Gi-Oh, they usually see like, oh, like a guy's doing his turn and then the other guy's like playing all these hand traps during their turns, so it's almost like, like both players are playing on the same turn, right? Whereas Pokemon, like, you kind of play one turn. And like tier limits, what makes it so nutty is that like the guy's playing on his turn and then some of the tier limit players also like not just playing hand traps, but they're also just summoning their own fusion monsters, like on the other guy's turn, and then on their turn they're still doing it. Like, it's just like, yeah, it's like, when do I get a turn, man? Like, you just can't catch a break.
Yeah.
It's pretty nuts.
And so, funnily enough, probably the second most popular, most represented deck after that is the deck Ricky's playing. It's the bird deck. They're all
but yeah, Floowandereeze, man. The namesake of the podcast.
Yeah, typically, the good old Floowandereeze. The good old Floowandereeze monsters, they let you normal summon a whole lot.
Yeah, because you get like an extra like this one. Yeah.
So more specifically, what it is each of their members, they have an effect, and then they all share a bonus effect where they give you an extra normal summon. So traditionally, you get one normal summon per turn, but it's similar to like the Archeops thing where you're just, accelerating energy. In Yu-Gi-Oh, you're just accelerating all these like extra normal summons. And then, the Floowandereeze deck specifically has a field spell and a trap card, which both also let you do it on your opponent's turn just because.
It's, correct me if I'm like way off bounds here, but it's kind of like if you like played something to your bench and then you just got to grab another thing to the bench.
Yeah. That's actually a perfect example. Yeah, imagine like you're playing Pokemon and you're like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do what every player does. I'm going to bench this Pokemon. And then your opponent's like, well, thanks to the ability of my Snorlax VMAX plus Turbo, I also get to bench a Pokemon. They're like, oh, okay. And then because I bench this Pokemon, his ability lets me bench this other Pokemon. It's like, oh, okay, that's, all right. It's like, well, where'd you get that? It's like, oh, when he was benched, he added this guy and then benched this one. It's like,
yeah.
All right.
This one's my hand that I'm gonna use to evolve next turn.
Yeah. And then it'd be like if once you like knock out the bench Pokemon or active Pokemon, instead of going to the grave, they go to the Lost Zone, and then next turn they like just add themselves from the Lost Zone back to the hand. It's pretty bonkers. Yeah.
Yeah, good old. Those are some good old Yu-Gi-Oh decks.
No, I think what makes
Oh, go ahead.
Now, I was just gonna say, I think what makes both of them too crazy is that, like, with tier elements, right, you're shoving all these cards in your graveyard, and then you get all these graveyard effects, so it's almost like you have two hands, right? You get to play with the cards in your hand and the cards in your graveyard, and then, like, with Floowandereeze, that's just, like, the banished version, right? You get to play with your hand in the banished zone, so...
Yep. And then they're both, doing a lot of plays on the opponent's turn, typically.
Yeah. So. Actually, yeah, the perfect example probably would be right now in Pokemon with Comfy Toolbox and stuff, right? It's the same idea where you just shove a ton of cards in the Lost Zone and then you grab them back and stuff with, like, the Vacuum or whatever other card they have. I know they have some card that, like, grabs stuff, I think. No? Maybe I'm lying? I'm probably talking about myself. They get benefits when they have
Vacuum's the...
Can you tell I don't play Pokemon?
It's like, it's either Special Energy...
Or, like, scoops up the stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, it's not really a... It's kind of like the... Oh, it's kind of like the Regigigas thing, actually, where, like, you're just shoving all these special energies in graveyard and then getting back. That's, like, the tier limit thing, but, like, if Reggie's, like, did, like, the damage of, like, Lugia and, like, got rid of stadiums and, like, they were all worth, like, half a prize instead of one prize.
Yeah.
Like... And, like, if like, Regigigas, like, just didn't need, like, 5 Reggies to have his effect. If he was just like, I just always have this effect, and it can't be negated. And also it turns off all the other opponent's effects.
Like neutralizing gas.
Yeah. That's a fun card in Pokemon for you, Austin. It's like,
Galarian
Weezing. Oh, we can just pull it up here, yeah. He's the most Yu-Gi-Oh card ever, just because, like... You look at you show this kind of card to like a Yu-Gi-Oh player, and they'll be like, "That's a Yu-Gi-Oh card." Also, I can't spell Galarian to save my life, but yeah, this old fella. I don't know if you're still with us on the screen or not, but
Oh yeah, I'm watching.
He's great. Yeah, so his ability is neutralizing his gas. So as long as he's in the active spot, your opponent's Pokemon have no abilities except for neutralizing gas. So I think you remember the active spot. That was just like if they're not on the bench, they're active.
Yeah.
So the whole goal is you just bring this guy out, and then you use like boss's orders to like bring out one of their Pokemon that don't have any energy. You play Galarmine, so it doubles the retreat cost or increase the retreat cost by 2. You play this card like Crushing Hammer, so it like gets rid of their energies. You do all these like insanely annoying things, and then you just poison your opponent to death and wait like 80 turns. It's like it's not quite the Mystic Mine of Pokemon, but it's close.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And Galarian Coughing has one move. It's called Ascension,
where he just evolves. And it's not even from hand, right? It's like from deck. Yeah, so you don't even have to draw the Wheezing.
Yeah.
And it costs like you just have to draw. Well, I can just show you. It's
yeah,
pretty...
those are definitely Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Oh yeah, here's the whole. Yeah, they're just showing the. Yeah, so this guy on the left and stuff. The resolution's horrible, but yeah, he says you search your deck for a card that evolves from this Pokemon and put it onto this Pokemon and evolve it. So basically, like, the play is right, like, oh, I'm going second. Okay, I played this guy, attach an energy, evolve the Weezing on the first turn.
One turn setup. I love it.
Or it's like, oh, I'm going first. Okay, play my Coughing. You go. Oh, you're going second. You can't evolve. Okay, my turn. Play Coughing again. Play Weezing, just from the hand. And then if you don't do an attack, you can do the poison thing, which does 4 damage instead of 1 every turn. And since it's poison, it does it between turns, so you're really taking like 80 damage by the time your turn rolls around. Yeah, this is the unfun. Guy played this at our locals, and he has to apologize for playing Galarian Weezing.
Yeah, it was my first locals.
I told him, I'm like, oh, that's okay. You're just like playing cards that are legal. And then like he went to his friend. He's like, you hear that, Dave? I play cards that are legal. He's like, yeah. The fighting
like,
league is cool.
One of the regionals we were just at, after one of my opponents beat me, his friend comes up and he's like, man, I hate his deck too. It's like so good. And that was like the round that I was like not being able to have a turn because it was just time.
Oh, yep.
So I was so salty about it, but it was funny. So I hate that deck too.
Yeah, no, I think we can actually even pull up my favorite website. The fakest sounding website also, www.yugiohtopdecks.com. This is a real website, and it was down for a long time during the COVID period, but it's finally back, and it's exactly what it sounds like. They just have, like, top decks and stuff, and some ads by Nike, I guess. But, yeah, so, like, OTSs, those are kind of, like, big locals, like they don't, but yeah, I mean, all right, here you already see a she's. Well, these are from November from the last list, so.
Well, I was gonna say, so YCS is big, like beer tournaments. They're run by the Konami. They're usually like 1,000 to 2,000 people, somewhere in there, depending on where it's at.
Oh, look at. Oh no, this is November. I'm trying to think of what was the. Did we have we've had a YCS during this format for the December one, right?
There was Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, thank you.
The last 4 YCSs have all been Shizi tournaments.
I'm trying to see if they have because these are the top 4, but they probably have a top 32 cut usually as well. Top 8, top 16. Oh, look at them. Top 32 feature. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, right off the bat, there's this. Oh, I can't do the multi-highlight, but, yeah, I mean, you got, like, one here, one here, one here. And similar to Pokemon, anytime they have 2, that just means people are playing both the strategies. But, I mean, like, the main guy carrying the weight is, like, the tier limit and all these strategies, I guarantee you. Yeah.
Yeah. The other one you see a lot on there is Sprite. We didn't really talk about that one yet.
That's a good one too. Yeah.
That one just makes a bunch of like little guys that all have really good effects. And it's just really a really consistent engine. They have some like extra deck monsters that are really kind of easy to make with a lot of different monsters.
I think what really effects. And as much as people like meme on the whole, like, oh, it's a tier 0, like you only played this one deck format stuff, like, I think another interesting thing is like there's this dimension shifter card that you've probably heard me mention like 50,000 times, but if you talk to anybody that's like playing like in tournaments right now, like they're always gonna bring up this card. So like With Tearlaments, the main strategy is you're just gonna like they have four different monsters for their own archetype that all have amazing graveyard effects. So and then they have 2 other cards that have to support them that just send like 5 cards to the graveyard. So they play both of them. So the idea is you send like 10 cards from your top of your deck to your graveyard, and then they have their own card that sends like 5 more, so that's like 15, and they have their own that does 3, so it's like what, 18? Yeah, it's like 18 cards on the turn. Like it's not hard to do 18 on one turn, which it sounds like I'm memeing, but it's like it's actually not that hard. And then
if they resolve one, they just like chain into the other one.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, oh, I sent this one. It's like, oh, surprise! Off the top, I saw another one, so I'm just gonna keep going. Yeah. So obviously,
like, sometimes they miss. But
yeah, sometimes they do. They do. Usually they don't, but sometimes
usually they don't.
Yeah. But yeah, this card, a lot of decks play this to counter Tearlaments. It says if you have no cards in your graveyard, you can send it from your hand to the graveyard, and until the end of the next turn, any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. So that's like Pokemon's Lost Zone mechanic and stuff.
Yeah.
Once it's there, you're not really
With
interacting
Lost
it.
City, the stadium.
Yeah, and like what makes it so good is that because it says it's a quick effect, you can do it during your opponent's turn. So even if you lose the dice roll and you're going second, you can just slap this guy. If you're going first, same thing. You can also slap. It's good going first, going second. And then the only problem is, if you're playing your own graveyard strategy, it's not going to be that great. So on top of Tearlaments being like the king right now, the other decks like also we're talking about Floowandereeze and Sprite, they're both good strategies by themselves, but then they also don't really care that much about the graveyard, so then they can play this card. So it's weird that like the format's kind of like warped around this, like, okay, you either play like the best deck Tearlaments, right, or you play like a deck that's able to play this card and it's good on its own, right? Because you can't just like shove this in anything. But if you play it in a really good strategy, it's like you can't just like, I don't know, shove like Galar. I don't even know what's a good example, but yeah.
I put a choice spell in my
to counter my V strategies. Yeah. It's like, well, it's not gonna work
like
with Durant.
Counter to Lugia.
Right. Is there? I don't. Durant. They go through their whole deck, and then you mill them, and then you just win.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's enough about Yu-Gi-Oh. Let's talk about.
So with Pokemon, Lugia's still the big bad.
Is Lugia the big bad, or is Anthony Fernie's Durant deck the big bad, man?
So Australia's weird.
They are quite. They're different.
They always have like totally different like top 8s. I feel like.
Because I mean, you look at this. There are a lot of Lugia decks. Like, it's definitely still the best deck. Like,
oh yeah.
Even though it didn't win the event, like, you look at this top cut and you're like, it's like what, half of it, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 6 of the top 16. Like, that's quite ridiculous.
Yeah, and then there's a couple.
And I guarantee you, all these other strategies were playing like, trying to beat Lugia. Like, so.
Yeah, but one of the things is that like so Lugia's weak to electric. And that's not super well backed up in
there's not a lot of electric
format.
decks. Like, there are some, but they're usually rogue decks.
But Flaffy did get second at Brisbane.
That's a lightning, yeah.
Yeah, and so Flaffy has this ability where you can take electric energy from your discard and then add it to one of your bench Pokemon, so it helps like move things along for you, but it's still pretty slow considering like Lugia gets 4 energies a turn when it
it looks like for this guy specifically, he just slaps out of this guy, so it's like, right, you get like 130, and then you multiply those, that's 260. You're killing the Lugia.
Yeah, and then
even if it somehow survives, it's paralyzed.
Yeah, and then but also like they're all single prize decks, so you only get 1 prize card for all of their Pokemon, whereas like Lugia
it's
Vstar
worth 2.
Yeah.
So it's just like, you're doing really good trading where every turn ideally, right, you're taking 2, you're knocking out this big attacker Lugia, and then Lugia's like trying its best just to get crumbs for like 1 prize, right, if they're lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy, they found the counter.
They found a card that's it's doable.
It's doable, yeah. And then
this is the deck I want to talk about. This fucking
Durant's like the ultimate like
fuck you card.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, they don't play it for Vise Grip, they play it for Devour.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a mill deck.
It's a mill deck,
It's a mill deck.
which yeah, no, it's similar to the Yu-Gi-Oh thing. This is like unheard. Well, it's a meme deck. Like people
Yeah.
don't top with this deck.
But
It's
it got
not good.
third.
It got third at Brisbane, which it's like what? Oh, you know what this is like? This is like when Mystic Mind Burn won that one like YCS and stuff. Like like you can lose to Mystic Mind Burn, but it's like to imagine winning a YCS, you're like, there's no fucking way. Like
Yeah. Didn't it happen in like Latin America or South America?
yeah, right, yeah, like I mean, just watching this get third place was nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one really cool thing about this deck compared to like the other Durant decks before, so the other Durant decks like really focused on
Just milling
just
them,
continue
yeah.
like milling as much as possible. So there's a card called like was it
The shovel, yeah.
which like just discards like 2 cards or something like that. But like
Yeah, if you look at this though, it's mostly just energy control, I think.
yeah, so Cast Form's there just for like the free retreat. I don't know, because they're not playing like a bunch of energies stadiums. But
Yeah, and then this is just a free draw card, yep.
yeah, I'm gonna puke.
This is more draw support, yep. This one's like, it gets rid of special energies, which Lugia is all about special energies. Yeah, and then these 2 cards are funny because this one only works on non-Vs, but Durant's not a V, obviously. So you just get 2 energy for free, which is enough to do the Devour attack. And this card's even more funny because it's the same thing as Twin. You can put on anybody, but they do 20 less damage. But obviously you don't care about that because Durant's not doing any damage. He's trying to mill your deck out. And same with Evital, like, you're not playing it. I mean, you can use the Dark Feather attack, but, like, you're mostly just doing it for the... I mean, he literally can't because he's not playing Dark Energy, but... Right, they mostly do it for the Cryo Destruction.
Cryo Destruction, yeah.
I mean, you see the 4 Durants, right, that's his main strategy. And, like, the more Durants you have, the more cards you're discarding.
Yep.
So he was actually milling them, like, consistently.
Yeah.
Right,
Because you also have, like, Rescue Carrier, so you get...
Yeah, you get them back.
It's like them from the discard pile back.
It's like a double monster reincarnation that you don't have to pay cost for.
Yeah.
It only works on 90 HP Pokemon, but Durant's exactly 90, which is funny.
Yep, and then...
Yeah, this one just confused them to stall.
Yeah.
More searches,
Yeah.
more searches.
Yeah, so you can hit him for like four cards every turn.
Oh, this is funny too. You play
Yeah.
Cape and Toughness, so you can't put this on GX, but GX don't exist right now. So you can, oh, sorry, basic Pokemon, yeah. So you can't put it on, like, V-Stars or Evolution Pokemon, but, yeah, again, he's a basic, so what? That's 140 HP on a Durant. Which is, yeah, surprisingly tough to, if you're getting, like, right, your energy's taken, if you're getting, like, your deck milled, right?
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
And then Radiant Venusaur, I think,
It's
helps
just draw
you.
support, yeah.
Yeah. It's like Snorlax, but it doesn't end your turn.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Which is actually really good, because they need their attack for the Durant, yeah. Yeah, so it seems like the idea is, I mean, I haven't watched I want to watch the VOD if there's a VOD, but I mean, yeah, I'd imagine the idea here is, right, I just play all this draw support, right, and then I bring out your boy, slap a cape on him, and then just start whacking away.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, he played 3 of the capes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, it's really good against Lost Box, because you're going through your deck super fast with that already.
yeah. That's
So
fun.
That was the
then-
other thing I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Just like in general,
Lost
right?
Box,
With all
yeah.
these,
Yeah.
well, everyone's always playing like the discard to draw 7.
Yeah, like Professor's Research, or, yeah.
Yeah, because the main thing with this deck is this guy. So yeah, he I don't. It's hard to explain why this is so good if you haven't played Pokemon in a while. But yeah, he looks at the top 2. You grab one of them and you banish the other one. What makes this crazy is that it's not like a hard once per turn, and with Pokemon. I mean, it says right there, if it's the active. Yeah, if a Pokemon leaves the active spot and goes back to the active spot, right, or returns the hand and gets benched again, it's considered like a new
Pokemon
thing for, once per turn abilities. So, like, you play this, right, you look at the top 2, pick one, right, so it's like a mini duality almost, but then, you play a bunch of cards to swap it around. So there's this card, right, it just switches Pokemon. It only works on basics, but Comfy's a basic.
I think that's only plays basics, too.
Yeah, and then, there's this one, right, where it's like a compulse, like, you just pick up one of your Pokemon, so you do that for Comfy, play it again.
Yeah, oh my god.
Yeah, there's this one where it switches yours and one of your opponents, so you just switch, grab another comfy. Like, there's some... Oh, yeah, this one makes free retreat cost, so they just retreat into it, do it again.
And then, let's see... You use your Sableye.
Yeah, so this is their attacker, yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say, what do you...
You ideally do comfy 10 times in a turn, get 10 in the lost zone, and then this thing puts 12 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. So, obviously it's good because it only costs 1 energy, right? So that's 120 damage. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, 120 for 1 energy, right? It's only worth 1 prize because it's not a V or V star, whatever the F. The other thing is, since it says put damage counter, that ignores like things like resistance, weakness, all these things, because it's not damage, right? You're just placing damage counters.
Ignores mana fee.
You're just doing your thing.
Yeah, it's similar to like the Pokemon like destroy versus send to graveyard, right? It's like, well, I'm not destroying you, I'm just placing you in the graveyard, right? I'm not damaging you, I'm just putting damage counters on you, which in turn do damage to you. Yeah. So
sending cards to the grave. I'm not destroying it, I'm just sending.
I'm sending them. Yeah, and what makes this really good too is that because it puts them in any way, right? You could do the obvious where you just put 12 on your opponent's active Pokemon, right? But you can get creative, right? Let's say your opponent's Pokemon has like, I don't know, 100 HP left. Just put 10 on that and then just put 2 on any of their bench guys you want, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe like they only need 1 prize left and they got like a really weak guy, you can just snipe them, right? Because a lot of times what people will do too in the middle of a Pokemon game as they whack each other, they'll kind of retreat their damaged Pokemon and try to bring out a healthier Pokemon. This guy just snipes them.
Yeah. And then you have Cramorant.
Oh yeah, this
Spit
freaking
innocently.
guy.
So he's normally the first person you attack with because you only need
4
cards in the lost zone, which is a lot easier to get to than 10.
And then suddenly you can do 110 damage. Yeah, it's not affected by weakness, right? And you just do it for free, so you're skipping 3 energies. And again, he's worth 1 prize, so it's like, yeah, you just do trades really efficiently and stuff. Yeah, because sometimes it is tough to get to the 10 on the first turn. Like, if you get really lucky, you can. I've seen people do it, but yeah, usually I think people probably get about maybe like 5 on the first turn.
Yeah, because then like if you like Colorus's Experiment or something.
Yep,
like that.
That's another supporter that like yeah, this is like a Lost Zone version of Professor's Research where they just yeah, you look at the top 5. It's almost like it's like a way better. It's almost like Prosperity. It's quite similar to Prosperity, except you get 3 instead of picking 1, right? So yeah, this card's insane.
Insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like better Prosperity. Well, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, this is.
It doesn't dig. It digs 1 less, but yeah, just grabs 3. Yeah, this would be unfair as a Yu-Gi-Oh card. But it's also good as a Pokemon card because the other draw supporters, right, like Research and Marnie, they involve either discarding your hand first and then drawing, or shuffling your hand to the bottom of the deck and then drawing. Whereas this one, you could have a hand of like 20 cards, yeah, just slap this guy and then just get 3 more. Like, so you're never like, you don't have to like play out your hand first, right? You can just like start with this guy, you can end with this guy, right? Obviously for Lost Zone strategies, it helps putting cards in the Lost Zone for that, like, you know, Sableye or Cramorant play. So, and then, yeah, I guess they don't really grab, I don't know why I thought they grabbed stuff from the Lost Zone. There's just some... Crazy. Okay, Grandpa, let's get you to bed.
Mew's still doable.
Yeah, they're too sitting. Oh, hey, this guy got. Look at him.
Yeah.
Is that the last like good deck?
This was the last Boogeyman of
the last
Boogeyman because honestly, probably Palkia would have been before this, right? And then before that, it was like Mew. Yeah, that was the deck I was playing for a while.
Yeah. But yeah, the number 1 deck was a single prize Articuno deck, which was like out of left field.
Yeah, this freaking guy.
Yeah.
This is a Yu-Gi-Oh card right here. Like, so he draws until you have as many cards in your hand as Fusion Strike Pokemon. So, and your whole deck is Fusion Strike Pokemon. So ideally, you have 1 in the active, 5 on the bench, right? And then if you have a hand of 0, you're just drawing 6 cards. And this is and it's a soft once per turn. So if you have 4 Genesects, right, you could do like the dream play of drawing like 24 cards. Usually it's more like you're drawing like 3 off each of them, like so you do like 3, 6, 9, 12. But like that's still quite good, and it's not even using your supporter. And then his attack's impossible to do because it costs 2 metals and 1 colorless. But then they play this guy, who's his first attack just copies any attack because it's Mew. That's like the lore of Mew, right? You can learn any attack.
Yeah.
So then you just do 210 damage for 2 colorless energy, which is bonkers.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
It is crazy that this card got power. I mean, not power, but yeah, it's not the Boogeyman anymore. Like, right? It's a VMAX. It's three prizes.
You only have to knock out 2 Mew
Three
VMAXs.
prizes. Okay.
Yeah, 'cause it's a VMAX. Yeah. So yeah, VMAXs tend to have more HP than V stars, but they are worth way more prizes.
Plus, Mew is like the lower end of like the VMAX.
Yeah, most VMAXs have
HP.
about 330 HP. Yeah.
The VMAX is like a Gigantamax.
It's
Yep.
either Gigantamax
Or
Dynamax.
Dynamax. So with Mew V, it's Dynamax, but there's a few Gigantamaxes out there too. Yep. And
Yeah.
then yeah, I mean they just whack people.
Yeah, I mean, I just couldn't tell from that picture.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. It's just right. It's like here's Mew and here's like shinier Mew, right? It's like yeah. I don't know, he's got some like little.
I know, it makes me think of like the first Pokemon Snap where he's like in the little ball and you try to take a picture but you can't.
Yeah, it's like ooh, mysterious.
But yeah, number 1 in Brisbane was an Articuno deck.
What, this one?
Yeah, so it's Inteleon Frostmoth with Articuno.
What?
Yeah, so Wild Freeze.
70 and then they're paralyzed.
Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, to put it in context,
Work again?
so paralyzed is so when a Pokemon's paralyzed, it can't attack, it cannot retreat, I believe.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it just ends at the end of like your opponent's turn. So
yeah,
like,
so you just have to wait it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
The easiest ways to get rid of paralyzed would be playing like a spell. So like using switch to like swap it out, because then a Pokemon's not considered there anymore. So it goes back to healthy, right? You can use maybe Scoop 'em Net, but not every deck plays Scoop 'em Net.
Yeah.
And we can just look at like the Lugia deck, because that's probably what he was targeting, right? Like no copies of switch, right? So it's like.
Yeah.
If Lugia gets paralyzed, like I
It's
don't
stuck.
really see an out here.
Like they just have to sit on it.
You just have to sit, which is bad, yeah. But like it's because like paralyzed is like so rare in the TCG. The most common effects are like confusion, maybe poison.
I feel like poison's the most common that like
yeah,
I've seen.
you like poison and because with confusion, like you're still allowed to retreat manually.
Yeah.
You're still allowed to like attack and stuff. It's just if you flip tails, like it doesn't do anything, but that's fine.
No, confusion. If you flip tails, you do 30 damage to yourself.
Right? Yeah,
When you
yeah.
attack,
But then
yeah.
your attack doesn't go through. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, paralyzed. Yeah, it sucks because like you just have to sit there. You're like.
Unless you have a switch
Yeah.
or scoop up, yeah.
Like paralyzed and asleep are both really rare in TCG because both of those, like your Pokemon are not allowed to retreat when they're asleep or paralyzed. Which is, yeah, if you don't have the out, then it's like you're it's almost like getting hit by a Mystic Mine. Like,
Yeah, but what's different about the Articuno and why it's easier to use that than with the electric is that water has so much support.
yeah, that's true.
It
So
is crazy. You have like
Yeah, I was looking at that list. Look
Oh,
at
yeah.
this.
yeah, so you
Wow.
look at this guy. You can grab water guys. You grab
NASA.
NASA. Yeah, you can just grab energies and
yeah.
stuff.
Um
Oh yeah, you look at this guy right. He
Capacious
grabs
Bucket,
more
yeah.
energies and stuff. Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you have Frostmoth.
Oh yeah, old
So-
reliable.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy. Yeah.
So he you can attach a water energy for free pretty much from your hand to any of your bench Pokemon. So normally you're only allowed to attach one per turn, but because of this ability, you can just like throw
rain.
those water energies down. So you get like those Capacious Buckets, the Irida or the Nessa. Fill your hand up with those energies, and then you can just like set up your entire bench.
I'd even say, yeah, these two decks play a really similar strategy where, yeah, you're trying to accelerate energy onto a paralyzed attacker, whereas with the lightning deck, right, you've got this guy which does it once per turn and stuff, so it's like, right, ideally it's like you manually attach, and then you get like 2 of these, right, to do
Yep.
to do 1, 2, 3, and then Wild Shock. So it does do more damage, it hits itself, but then it's paralyzed, right? Yeah, and then you look at Articuno and stuff where the setup you really just need is get this guy and then just one of these guys, right? And then you just go boom, 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 yeah.
And then
Oh, and it's only 2, right, instead of 3.
Yeah.
So really, you only need like manual attach and
then-
slap, yeah.
yeah, and then you also have that Italian engine
Yeah,
So
which
you
is
can, like, search
insane.
through your deck every single turn pretty much because you'll evolve at least one time.
Yeah, so you've got Sobble, which is the basic. He doesn't do much, but then when he evolves to Drizzile, he has an ability that just adds any trainer card from your deck to your hand. So this is like Skyla in ability form, which suddenly makes it good because then now you're not using your supporter for the turn, right? And then he evolves into this one, which adds 2 trainer cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they play multiple copies. So like like the Magic turn one is like benching 3 Sobbles and passing, right? And then on your next turn, right, grabbing like a level ball or like an evolution sense, right? Grabbing Drizzile, evolving into Drizzile, grabbing like more level balls, evolving into like another Drizzile, right?
Yeah.
Just like going nuts, yeah. Bless you.
Thank you. And then the other thing
Yeah,
it
this guy.
uses for concealed cards is helpful.
Just draws cards every turn.
Yeah, and then the other one's Alolan Vulpix V-Star. So when it uses Snow Mirage on its next turn, it can't. It says so this attack's damage is affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon, which is great. So it ignores like V-Guard energy, things like that. And then during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from Pokemon that have an ability, which is like 90%. It's a lot of them. So like it's Arceus can't attack it.
I mean, does Lugia have an ability, or is it considered V-Star power?
So Lugia does have the ability with the V-Star ability.
So it works against this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so,
great.
Yeah, so Lugia can't hit it.
That's probably why he played it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's only a 1-of, so it's like if you like really need it, I mean...
If you run into it for the matchup, you just slap this guy down.
Yep. You have your Inteleon to get everything going, and then you can use... the Radiant Greninja as an attacker if needed, but it's also draw support.
Then this guy for Mew decks, yeah.
Yep, Drapion V for Mew decks, because...
Mew's weak to dark, so this does like 380 damage.
Yep, with no energies.
Yeah.
Because
and then
you're
it's a
gonna
60 to like another one of their Pokemon, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he costs 4, but his ability makes it cost less for every Fusion Strike they have, and the entire Mew deck's Fusion Strikes, so if they just have 4 Pokemon, you just do this for free.
Okay, yep.
And when you think of like a deck like Cramorant where they're playing Cramorant to like do it for 110 damage, right? Whereas this guy does it like for 380 damage.
And then 60 on the bench.
Yeah, and then that's like what, 440 damage or something.
Yeah.
It's kind of nuts.
Good part against Mew decks.
Yeah, Mew's not very popular anymore. A lot of people tech this as a 1-of just because you play and you win the game. Like, it used to be like a meme on Verbank City. People would ask like, "Oh, how do I counter this?" And they're like, "Don't play Mew." Like, it's like.
Yeah, no, that kind of seems like Bestial is coming out in the Yu-Gi-Oh format.
Yeah, this is one of those cards where like if Pokemon had a side deck, like this would be included in every single side deck. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, the Pokemon answer to that since they don't have side deck is usually just including cards as a 1-of and stuff. So that's like, if you don't play the matchup, you don't bench it, you just discard it with something or whatever.
Because you have to have 60 cards in Pokemon.
You have to have 60 cards, and there's
60.
no side deck. So between game 2 and 3, you have to continue playing with what you got.
Yeah.
So,
because I know like with Yu-Gi-Oh, it's normally around 40.
It is 40 to 60 cards. Most people generally try to stick closer to 40 so they can draw power cards. And then, you have a 15-card side deck, so in between games, you get to swap out cards and decide, like, hey, I want to play this Drapion and smack my opponent in the face.
Yeah. You do that in Pokemon, and you're getting kicked out of the regional. So.
Yeah, that'd be cheating.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Pokemon equivalent is, like, you play this 1-of, right? And it's like, well, if I don't need the Lowland Vulpix, right, or if I don't need the Drapion, I just won't search it, or I won't play it. And if you draw it, you draw it. Just discard it with one of your million of discard effects. So, yeah. Right, like, the worst case is, like, you play against, like, a deck that doesn't use it, and, like, your only basic for the start of the game is this, right? And then you have to play it, right?
Yeah.
There's a really good World Championship feature match, like, years ago, like, pre-COVID and stuff, when Austin and I were playing with Jirachi. EX. So this card was great, because it just added anything from your deck to your hand. Any supporter. The problem is you have to play it from your hand. So, right, the nightmare scenario which happened during this Worlds was this guy, they shuffled up the decks. He looks at his hand. He's only got one basic, so he puts it down, and the basic's Jirachi. So now he doesn't get the ability right. It has 90 HP, which is garbage. Its attack takes 3 energies does 60, which is also garbage, right? Like it was rough. That guy did not have a fun game. But I mean that's like the risk you play with playing these one of cards where you like, in Yu-Gi-Oh the equivalent we call this is a Garnet and stuff. This came from this card called Brilliant Fusion. So this card was absolutely insane in Yu-Gi-Oh. Bless you. Bless you.
Okay, I think I'm good now.
Whether this is really the highest resolution we have of this, huh? This is very good. This really picks. So yeah, this card summons a Gem Knight monster. What makes it good though is when you think of regular polymerization, you have to use cards in your hand and field. This card uses monsters in your deck. So you play it, and then like you're not really losing anything because you just get a free fusion monster, it replaces itself, and then like the cards you're using are from the deck and stuff. And the guy it brought out too was Seraphonite, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Austin remembers. he's having the PTSD flashbacks. Yeah, so this one gives you an extra normal summon every turn, which is insane. It's like it's almost like the Archeops thing, right? It's like you can just get extra energies every turn. So the downside to this is its requirements were a Gem Knight monster and a light monster. The light monster part's great because lots of decks play light monsters. You can play light monsters that get their effects when they hit the graveyard and stuff. That was fine. The Gem Knight monster part was tough because you're like, oh, well, that's fine. Just play a Gem Knight monster that has a really good graveyard effect.
Yeah.
The problem is there is none. They all suck. They're garbage. And the best one out of all of them, I say best, it really was the least worst one, was this one. It had 1900 attack and no effect. So, like, the idea was that, like, if you drew it, you could at least maybe normal summon him and hit them for 1900, or he's level 4, maybe you can make, like, a rank 4 monster, but, like, really, you just never wanted to draw this card. So, there's a lot of cards that have, like, a similar philosophy like this, where it's, like, they're really good in your deck, absolutely garbage if you draw them, and like a slang term is just calling them like a garnet and stuff, because like all the garnets are cards you just never want to draw, but you always want them in your deck. So yeah, I mean that's just the Jirachi EX, right? That's the Drapion, that's the Alolan Vulpix thing. That's the classic starting with Sobble, getting whacked at the start of the game. Man.
Yeah, no, those are some cool looking decks.
Yeah, and then I think Toronto recently happened, and it's back to like.
Yeah, this is the more typical of what you think. Yeah, tons of Lugia, right? This guy, which I guarantee he was playing this to counter Lugia. Like, it's I'm a big fan of this one.
Yeah, the Duraludon. Yeah. Duraludon's great because he can't be
hit by things with special energy.
Yeah, if you have any special energy.
Yeah, the problem is Lugia, they just play this guy, yeah. So it doesn't damage them, it knocks them out. So it's just like... yeah, obviously it's cost a million energy. You're thinking, how is he going to do this attack? It's thanks to this guy, because he puts 2 special energies on, and they have a rainbow energy. This one, which does anyone, yeah. Yep. And then you're thinking, well, how are they getting this guy? He's a stage 2. They're going to have to do Unidentified Fossil, then they're going to have to evolve to Arshin, and then evolve to Archeops, except... checkmate, asshole. I'm playing Lugia V-Star. Just put 2 Archeops in the graveyard and then use Summoning Star to Monster Reborn them both. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a reason he's the big bad.
He's the boogeyman, man. And you too can get him now for $28.52 using the discount code Yugi 500. Man.
That's cool, though. I feel like Lugia being a really good deck is kind of like Blue Eyes being a good deck.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, as much... I used to tell Zeke about this, as much as, like, people memed about when Mew was the best deck at the time and stuff, like... It's like Magician. At the end of the day, yeah, all he does is, like, a bunch of damage. Like, he's not like, oh, I have this ability that, like, turns off your effects, and then I draw... I mean, Genesect is pretty bad, but it's, like, Mew itself is just, like, I do a bunch of damage, right? That's like, the goal. And then, like, same with Lugia. Like, as much as we meme about it, like, at the end of the day, his effect is just, like, I do a bunch of damage. Like, you know, he's just, like, a big bozo.
Yeah. I also like the, so what, then... I totally forgot what I was going to say. That's fine.
But yeah, the closest to like what Vasa was talking about, like people always used to meme about Blue Eyes, but like there was a point in time where Blue Eyes just got a bunch of support, and then like there wasn't really any like crazy decks out there, so like a bunch of the really good decks recently got like hit or banned or something. So just by default, Blue Eyes became like the least worst deck, so you could call it I would never call it the best deck, but it was the least worst deck, so people would just play it. And all it did was you just bring out this guy with 3,000 attack, this big bozo that just whacked him, and it was good enough. Like that
good.
Yeah.
Did you ever turn him into Ultimate Dragon or?
You wouldn't turn into Ultra Dragon, but there was a twin-headed dragon that you do. Yeah,
Oh,
he was quite good. But then the other thing is like, because right now I think the reason why a lot of people meme on tier limits is because they're the complete opposite end of the spectrum, where they're not. I mean, they do have a big bozo they bring out, but like no one's saying like my tier limit strategy is powerful because my large attack. They're saying it's powerful because you're just summoning like 80 million dudes that all like say like I negate this, I negate that, I like destroy this, I like shuffle this into the deck. Oh, and also I can do it during your turn, right? Like, yeah. And also if you kill me, I just come back for free, like.
And they're always getting their own resources back.
Yeah.
Playing the game. So they're just reloaded to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they're good. They call it the grind game and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm super interested like where the meta's gonna go with Pokemon. So we have.
Oh yeah, rotation got announced.
Yeah,
right?
so we have a new set coming out in January. It's like a really small one. It's kind of like similar to like the size of Pokemon Go. And then March 31st we get Scarlet and Violet base set. And then rotation is April 14th. So all the cards that have like D down here, you see the letters, if it has D, not allowed anymore. So Inteleon's gone.
Drizzile.
Yeah, and then
I want to say Quick Ball too, right?
Quick Ball's gone.
Yeah.
We get Nest Ball back though, which is not quite as good, but it works. And then Marnie's gone, which.
Oh, we didn't
so
even look
sad.
at Marnie. Yeah, Austin's gonna love this card. This was
Marnie.
Yeah, so this is the end of the current format because N's not in standard, but Marnie is.
I love Marnie.
So if you remember N from when we played Pokemon, it's quite similar, but it's its own card. So yeah, both players shuffle their hand to the bottom of the deck, and then the person who played it draws 5, and the opponent draws 4. Which sounds unbalanced, but then you have to remember when your opponent goes, they're going to draw for turns. So it's basically like you each get 5.
Yeah.
Because if you each draw 5, then like the opponent gets 6.
But
be fair.
what makes Marnie so awesome is that you're not discarding your cards.
Yep.
But you're also not shuffling them back into your deck. So like you shuffle your hand and then you put it at the bottom.
Because we've all done it before, right? We've all like shuffled up the hand, done the classic Magic the Gathering mulligan. It's like, okay, I'm glad I don't have to draw these horrible cards, and then you draw 5 and like 4 of them are the same card. You just shuffled back, you're like, fuck!
Yeah.
But then with Marnie, it's great. You're like, it's like, nope, it's going to the bottom. I ain't seeing it. Get the shit out of my hand.
Yep, and also like forces your opponent's cards to the bottom of their deck, which is helpful.
Yeah, so this is cool in Pokemon because there's no hand limit. A lot of times games, like during the late game, we'll get to like 20 card hands and stuff. You play a Marnie, and then it's like, all right, have fun with your 5 cards. Like,
yeah, sometimes though also like I found with my unknown deck because I use Underworld Door a lot to like so I draw extra.
You get close to decking out really easily.
So then
in Pokemon.
I'll have like a hand of like 20 cards, and then I'm like,
and you have a deck
Marnie.
of 2, and you Marnie. Now you're back on gas. Yeah.
So now I don't have to worry about decking out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like the supporter version of like tier elements. So all the tier elements are good because they fusion summon a lot. And you might think, well, that sounds horrible. You have to play polymerization. With all the tier elements, they have built-in effects where they just say like you can use them as both the monster and the fusion spell. So you don't have to play polymerization. You just play these great monsters. And then when they fusion summon, instead of using it from the hand or field, they just use it from the graveyard and they go back into the bottom of the deck. So just like you're just getting gas back, like it's good.
Oh yeah,
very crazy. Where can people find you, Austin, on social media or on gambling casinos?
I'm not really on any social media besides Twitter, but I don't really post. There's like stuff.
And where can people find you, Ezekiel?
You can find me on PTCGO at Ezekiel 98.
Yeah.
EASY KILL. The numbers 9 and 8.
And we always got the link in the description for that. You can find me, Billy from Korea everywhere. But that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for talking, chatting, and hopefully we can get some good simulation talk next week. Maybe we'll simulate ourselves in VTuber form or something, or hologram. Who knows? Anything's possible. All right, you guys have a beautiful time. Yeah, that's it.